Hello there, everyone. Thank you all for joining. We've got another release party today. We're going to be talking about ReSharper and Rider 2021.3, some of the new things that have just been released there. There's a lot to get through, as ever. Our developers are always far too busy and far too good, and give us lots of nice things to show and demo for you. So I think we'll pretty much get cracking on. First of all, introductions. Hello, I'm Matt. Folks, do you want to introduce the rest of yourselves?
Hi, I'm Khalid. Yeah, hi, I'm Khalid.
Right,
okay,
Matthias.
from bottom to up. I'm Matthias. You can yell at me if some plugins don't work.
And we do.
I'm Martin, and I'm just here for the ReSharper bits and a little bit of Rider.
That sounds good. We're here for all of it. This is going to be great. So yeah, we've got a lot to get through over the next sort of about an hour and a half. Lots of fun things. A couple of things to start us off. First of all, of course, if there's any questions, please ask them in the chat. We'll try and answer them as we get going. We'll obviously be talking and showing things. We'll call out any questions if we can demo them. If not, we'll just answer them in the chat. We're also recording this. I presume somebody's hit the big record button, haven't you? Yeah, someone?
It is being recorded, yes.
There we are. That's good. As long as we've hit the big button, things are good. So this will be available then on YouTube later, and all is good. And of course, we'll follow up with various blogs and newsletters and whatnot afterwards. So what are we going to talk about? We have a number of interesting things. We're going to go through the what's new for ReSharper and Rider in 2021.3. Lots of features and interesting stuff to get through. So we've got all of this stuff written down in a lovely website, which you can go and have a look at there. Just do a quick search for what's new ReSharper or what's new Rider, and it'll bring you to a very useful big page full of features and goodness. And also, of course, don't forget to check out the blogs as well. So we would do a lot of content on the blogs with information, with details, with a deep dive into something, with an overview of other things. And it's a very useful way to get some top information there. Nice one there on the front page there for how Rider Hot Reload works under the covers. That's a great little one there from Martin. So I think it's time to dive in and get started. Matthias, I think you're going to take over now, I believe, and show us some...
I'm starting.
You're starting. What are you showing us to start with then?
I'm showing, let me share my screen. I'm showing you ReSharper installation dialog. Well, the first thing, and this is, I know some people have already been using our EAP builds to get support for Visual Studio 2022. Well, this is the final release or first major release that we have since then to actually support Visual Studio 2022. This is usually, you know, my go-to, or for most of us advocates, I'm sure, the go-to would be to install this from Toolbox, but you can see you can select it now here. Let's close this, and also here you can see. I actually found this funny when people decreased that number and said it's 63-bit and stuff like this. But well, you can see this is running. I have this here in my workstation, and well, besides that, I would also like to jump in right into some C# 10 features. And this is also something that we've all been waiting for, you know, first release with .NET 6, that is LTS again. And I think I'm going to start with fast scoped namespaces. So this is really...
Matthias, can I quickly interrupt? It turns out that at the beginning of our live stream, the chat was disabled. So we just enabled it. If you don't see it, just press F5, refresh your browser, and it should be there.
Yeah, I actually tried writing, hey, everyone, and then YouTube said, no, live chat disabled. But anyway, now it's good. So hello, everyone. Say hi if you're up for it. But again, let's get back to C# 10 features. So one of the things is global usings. So global usings are those kind of stuff or usings that you can put into one single file. So usually I, for now, go with global usings.cs, which then get applied to all your files in the whole project. So as you can see, currently I have this using here enabled, but it's not actually used anywhere. Only when I uncomment that, then we can go back and you can verify now ReSharper actually knows this is being used. And otherwise, if it wouldn't, you can actually also remove that. So you always know if a global using directive is actually worth having. So this is usual stuff. And besides that, let's also look at file scope namespaces. So this is another thing almost closely related, I would say, because they're both very at the top of every file. So file scope namespaces are those that basically we can save some indentation with our namespace declaration. So we can actually convert this to a file scope namespace, and now we just have the file scope namespace. But the really interesting part is here, and two other inspections that I will show follow the same pattern, is that we can actually perform this quick fix for the whole project or whole solution. So this saves a lot of time, going through doing the boring work. You just sit back, relax, select this one, and all the files in your current solution will be converted. Another thing is pattern matching. So switch over to that. Matt, once it's released, everyone recommend to check out a talk by Matt about pattern matching from the NDC Oslo. But for now, one thing that C# 10 also brought was a shorter syntax for pattern matching. So in pattern matching, we basically check, we can check for type check, basically. You can see if that object is a person. But the really interesting part goes on here in the curly braces, because then we can first check, okay, does this have an object or not null relatives property? And does it have a count of 1? Yeah, and this is, first this was introduced. It's a bit boilerplate, let's say, in terms of the curly braces. This is something that has changed. You can merge to nested property patterns. And again, this is also, let's revert this for a moment. Okay, get my keyboard up and running again. This is also available as a bulk fix again. Okay. Another thing, interpolated strings. This was something that I personally waited for so long, really. So here in this case, we have a debugger display attribute. If you don't know what that actually means, in short, this helps to inspect your objects in a nicer way than just overriding toString. Because it's not really overriding toString, but you still get the information that you put in here. And this is a bit clunky as well, because first, the usual pattern would be to have to first mention the property, so get using the name of operator, for instance, then showing some kind of equals sign, and then this syntax here basically tells the debugger to actually evaluate the property. And this is something that we can now turn into a constant interpolated string. So here, just like this. Now this is looking really interesting, I gotta say, with a lot of curly braces, but it's getting the job done, basically. Another place, of course, is here in the default values for a signature. We can do this as well. And again, I just really want to remind folks about this, because it's really worth remembering. This is something also available as a bulk fix. So don't go through and do all the busy work or boring work to convert these. Now let's head over to records. And I gotta be honest, I haven't used records so far, except for the examples that I'm producing here. But one thing that I'm sure will drop me off because I wouldn't know what to do is when you have this signature, then this basically reflects several elements on the IL level. So we will have a constructor argument, we will have a backing field, a property even. And so if we apply an attribute to one of these, then you can see this attribute is can only be applied to properties. Then ReSharper will help us to actually go here and relocate that attribute to a positional attribute, which means that this modifier, I think it's called modifier, is added here to make clear that this property belongs to the, that this attribute belongs to the property. Another place about parameters, and oh my God, I forgot to reset that. So another great thing with C#10 is that we can, this is also great, you know, usually I've been writing new action and then provide the lambda expression over there. Now you don't have to do this anymore. But in some cases, we might want to add attributes to these as well. And if we do this, like I have a very, let's say, simple lambda expression here, which is a single parameter, we might start just here, you know, adding the parameter. And again, ReSharper will tell us this attribute is not valid here because this should actually go into the parentheses. So also easy fix, you know, also learning the language while you're doing it wrong, basically, which I think is very great to just over time learn how it's done right. The next thing I want to talk about are caller expressions. So, and you may remember, if you haven't seen it, there are some other caller attributes for capturing information about the call side. So far, we had the file path, the line number, and the member name. This basically works this way. Just for those that haven't heard about it, is that you provide a default value, and you will never pass that value from the call side, but the compiler will insert that information for you. Okay, and so what has been added now is the caller argument expression attribute. And this basically helps you to capture the expression from another parameter or argument that was passed for this parameter. So for instance, parameter name, this refers to this first object here. And when we call this, like not here, for instance, then this would basically be the argument, you know, because this is an extension method and we're passing this whole thing as an argument. And I think a better way to actually show this is to switch over to Rider just for that, just for this. So if we look at the decompiled source code, then you can see that while this is being called, the not null extension method, then you can see here in the IL viewer that there's actually a string which represents the whole argument for that one. But now let's get back here. The thing that we added here in this case was so that you have good completion for this. It will also notice if something is going wrong. So for instance, if you have the wrong parameter name in this case, then it will tell you, okay, this doesn't make sense, it's self-referential, and much more of this. The next one I have, and now we're getting a bit also into performance optimization and all that stuff, but I think it's worth showing anyway, read-only records. So here I have another record, just a point, you know, with X and Y value. And these methods that we call here, like accessing the X value or get hash code, they produce no copying for this struct type. However, once we have another method, let's take sum, for instance, now the compiler does a defensive copy of this struct, right? But ReSharper still knows at this point that the point is never actually modified, because in that sum method, we could actually do a mutation, but we don't. But in this case, ReSharper will suggest us to use the read-only modifier, just, you know, to get the last percentage of performance out of your code, and we'll add this. Now the reason, and just one more thing, if we actually have a mutation, then of course this suggestion will go away. One thing though that is important to, you know, kind of get the point here, is that this inspection is only shown when we know that there's a need to add that. Now in this case, we do know that there's no defensive copy anywhere in the solution, so we don't suggest it, just, you know, to not overload this amount of modifiers that you have to apply. One important fact here is that you have to enable solution-wide analysis for this to work. And the last thing I want to talk about is our interpolated string handlers. Now this will be a separate blog post actually, but I still want to show it for those people that might use them. So this is again a performance optimization where we can defer the construction of an interpolated string to a time or can decide whether it's worth constructing that string. Two things about this that are very interesting is first, you can navigate to the declaration from this little $sign here, because then you know, okay, this will be calling this trace logger params interpolated string handler. And another thing, you can also show usages from these append literal, append formatted methods that you usually provide. So in this case, we can show usages, and you can clearly see, okay, these are being used here and there. Okay, I'm not sure. I think this is the place where I head over to Martin, right?
I think it is, so I'll skip into my screen here. Hello, everyone. Welcome from my side as well. I will be talking a little bit about nullable reference types and some various code analysis fixes that we have in ReSharper and Rider, because both are based on the same engines.
Martin, I think we might be having problems with sound there.
Oh, fantastic. I was waiting for this to happen.
Perfect.
Shall we switch to the next speaker first, and I'll see if I can plug in a different...
No, I think you should just I think you should just struggle for a bit longer. We could just sit here and laugh at you for a bit. Go on, try doing some more robot voices.
All right, am I still a robot?
Yeah, you're still a robot. Let's move on. Right, the next section is oh, it's Martin. That's so fun. Well, I think what we've got next actually is a bit more Matthias.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be the Matthias show now. It's like me and Khalid are just going to sit back and relax. This is good.
Oh man, yeah, I can. Yeah, Martin, do you want to reboot or something, or just trying different?
Yeah, I'm gonna go for a quick reboot, so I'll be back.
Okay. Okay, so let me look up what I have next. Oh yeah, copy code reference. This is actually really great. It's a feature that many of the ReSharper devs have been using, internally. I think it was only available in internal mode, right? Anyone can confirm, Matt or Khalid? Copy code reference.
I don't remember.
Say yes.
Yeah, I'm running in internal mode all the time, so I can never remember what is and isn't.
Anyway, so the feature that has been polished and made more, ready for the public is the copy code reference action, and we've been using this usually under the name of FQN, fully qualified name, and this is still available as the let's say name for the action to call this, but of course in Art Enter menu you can also do copy code reference. But now when we execute this, then you can see that we have various options to copy the current code or reference to the current code. So for instance, the fully qualified name, this is usually by default copied to the clipboard, or just the class name, the namespace, etc. Another thing that's interesting, of course, is a link to, let's say, GitHub in this case, with a branch or a specific commit ID or commit hash. Oh, Martin is back. I will finish this though. And XML doc ID. So for instance, let's actually do this. So if we want to document something, it's not actually the place where I would do this. But if you have a cref tag, then you can, you get this XML doc ID that you can just paste there, and that will be working immediately. One thing that's worth to mention here is, let's head over to the settings, and you can actually extend this pop-up by yourself. So for instance, the default that we have is for space. So if you would happen to host your project on space, then this would be generated for you. But of course, you can fully customize that. And you can use these placeholders or macros here, which will then get replaced automatically and you will get the proper link, of course. And here you can also choose the title, whatever will be shown in this pop-up. So we can actually do this again, and I hope it does show up. It doesn't. Maybe I saved it to the wrong settings layer. But this is the place where sorry. This is the place where this is done. Yeah, it's probably saved it to the wrong layer. So you should. There's actually a notification about this, so you should save this to this computer to work. One thing though, it's not exactly the same, but I still want to point out that in Rider you also have this. So copy reference. You can actually also search for that. So XML doc ID, but there's also a second one. I don't know if there will ever be a time when this will be merged, but there's also copy path or reference. And this will also give you some nice options if you have Toolbox installed, for instance, or some others. And you can still actually navigate to the copy reference dialog that also ReSharper has.
I haven't seen that toolbox thing before. What does that one do?
It does. Let me check. I think it includes the full project. So usually project, you see this part will be taken from the solution name, and then it's just the relative. I can't go over there with a mouse, but it's just the relative path to that file.
So if you have the Toolbox app installed, you can click that link and it will navigate you to the right place.
Exactly. So for instance, if I had Slack open or some other place where you can paste links to a colleague or something, then you could actually click this and it will open up Rider, correct project, correct file, correct column, and line number.
That's nice. Yeah. I like that. If anybody doesn't know, by the way, Toolbox is a great app for managing your installs. It's really good for keeping everything up to date and installing different versions of your apps and what have you. If you've got more than one app from JetBrains, then Toolbox is the way to go.
Yeah, I was going to add, if you're not using Toolbox, like, how are you living your life? I don't understand.
Yeah. So sorry to jump in there, Matthias. Are you done with the copy code reference? Should we see if Martin's microphone is fixed now?
Sure.
Yeah. So I did not really intend to sound like Daft Punk. But apparently there is a hardware trick. So if your Ethernet connector is not deep enough in the computer, your connection apparently is not as fast as you would expect it to be. So that's the reason why my microphone
You got to take it out, blow in it, and put it back in again.
Yeah, probably. And remove duct tape that my colleagues pasted on it and all of those things.
You fixed this in just 5 minutes or even less?
Yes.
And respect.
So what are you going to show us then, Martin?
So as I was mentioning, I will be showing some nullable reference type stuff that has been added to ReSharper, but also will work in Rider. So whatever you see here will work in both IDEs. So let's switch to my screen here and switch to Visual Studio. And what you will see here is that I have a code file that has nullability disabled in this file. So we won't be using nullable reference types or any annotations. And why are you laughing? Is this my audio?
Yeah, your audio's gone again.
Damn it.
So I think you're going to have to just reboot, do a sentence, reboot, do a sentence, and reboot and do a sentence.
Yeah, exactly. So is it doable or is it really out of the question?
Just power through it. Just power through it. I think we'll be okay.
I'm going to power through.
Yeah. Keep it really short.
All right. So what will very often happen is if you have some code, you will you want to write some code and so on, and you can of course do that yourself. But what we as developers very often do is we go to a website or Google something, search for something, and we find some code to do something for us. Now in my code, I have nullability disabled. This one comes from a website where everything has nullability annotations and nullable strings, nullable string, null checks, and all of those things. Now if I paste it into my class that does not have nullability enabled, you will see that these things are not really required. So what ReSharper will do in Rider now is that you can either replace them with JetBrains annotations, so we can use the C#9 or C#8 feature where the JetBrains annotations could help you. So you could do that. Or what you can also do is remove all of the nullable annotations in, let's say, this entire file, and there you go. Now, of course, I realize that a lot of people will be doing the inverse, migrating from non-nullable codes to nullable codes. Well, I guess there's more releases of ReSharper that will come in the future, so we might actually look into that at a later point in time. The other thing that we have is more inferred nullability. So ReSharper will try and look at what is going on in your code to help you migrate towards using nullability. So if instead of disabling nullability, you say nullability enable, you will see that this null is getting a squiggle, it's getting an inspection. And I sound like stand-up calls. This is fantastic. I love reading the chat, by the way. So you will see this null value is actually noted as something is being wrong. So what I can do here is Alt-Enter, and I can either suppress the nullable warning, which you could do, or I could say, okay, I assign null into this variable or into this parameter. Maybe I want to change the type, and you can do that immediately in one go and make it nullable as well, so that this code is now correct. The chat is fantastic, by the way. This is really, really distracting. All right, another thing that happens is if you have nullability enabled, you will see that if you do a null check somewhere in a method where there's no nullability specified in the method signature, what will happen is ReSharper will recognize that you are doing a null check, which means that this parameter could in theory be nullable. So what you can do is also Alt-Enter here and change the type in this method to being nullable and let ReSharper fix this for you. So you can again migrate to making use of nullable reference types. Mr. Robot, oh man, the chat, keep it coming. This is fantastic. All right, I have some more stuff, and I promise I will be plowing through at a quicker pace so I can stop laughing with my robot voice. Let's switch to records. Matthias was already talking a little bit about records, not only for C#10, but also for older C# versions that have record support. We added a couple of quick fixes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I have a class person here that I'm using property initializers. I'm going to change this into using a constructor, which is decent and works very well. This one is not used, so I'm going to remove that one. And the next thing that I'm going to do, should I be updating this? Oh, yeah. The next thing I'm going to do is make this, instead of a class, to make this a record. So what I'm going to do is Alt-Enter, make this a records. This constructor can be removed. But by making this a record, and I have two constructors here, that is the reason why things are wrong. By making this a record, we actually already have this name and age property that we can use. So this constructor is no longer needed. ReSharper will let you know. You can simply Alt-Enter, convert to primary constructor, and you will get closer to a record type that you might expect. Also, now we have constructor parameters, but we also still have properties. So what you can do is either change this one to using an init accessor, for example, which would make it a real record. And ReSharper will recognize that this is no longer needed in your code base. So you can also here remove these explicit properties, let's say in this entire file. And we now, in a couple of Alt-Enters, refactored a class person with just property initializers to being records that you can use in your code base, which is quite nice, actually. Some other stuff that is there. My microphone is encrypting the voice. This is perfect. This is to make sure that your log for NET is not being hacked. Anyway, arithmetics.
Martin, I think we should move on. To be perfectly honest, I think this perhaps getting worse. And see if there's something you can do.
Let's
while
try and fix this.
Someone takes over the next section.
Yeah, we had someone
everything, and we can do this as a chat.
We had somebody suggest maybe turning off your video might help, but maybe that's worth a try. But
your incoming video, or either video.
I mean, we won't see your handsome face, but maybe that's worth.
Or you call me.
Try disabling video, Martin, and give that a go. Just quickly
Martin,
now.
you are handsome too, sir. I don't.
All right, let's quickly try this. Let's disable my camera. Is this better?
Right now, sounding good.
Yeah.
So go
Right
for
now
it,
it is
and I'll
better.
interrupt
Okay.
if it's bad.
Let's do this. This is fantastic. So yeah, arithmetics. ReSharper has gotten some inspections that analyze the flow of your codes to make sure that you can actually get some hints on how things work. And I see people laughing, so let's maybe drop that. I am going to type one thing. Well, I'm gonna leave it to the next presenter and see if I can fix this.
Yeah, let's just leave Martin for a little while, and we'll see what we can do, and we'll move on. And funnily enough, next on the running order, have a guess, it's Matthias. This is really the Matthias show, isn't it?
Martin, someone wants to say hello. It all makes sense now. Okay, actually, this time I don't have much to show except for one thing, and that is that Rider now fully runs on natively on M1 Apple MacBooks, on Apple Silicon. You can actually verify that. For some time, we've been providing actually builds for M1 MacBooks, but now this is also automatically available through Toolbox, and it runs .NET 6, RTM, and all that stuff. So I can tell you, very good experience, very fast and all. The only thing with the M1 MacBook was also camera wasn't working. I mean, my external one. So we had a lot of pain today with technical issues. Okay, that's it for me.
Yeah.
For now.
Oh, that's the end of the Matthias show.
Yeah.
And now we start the Khalid show.
All right, let's do it. Woo,
what have you got for us, Khalid?
Oh my God. All right. So folks probably know, or maybe they don't know, but I'm a macOS user. So, and mostly a Rider user. So folks probably can get the hint from earlier from Matthias and Martin talking about C#10, but we do have .NET 6 support now in Rider. So when you come into Rider, you can see the new welcome screen here. And if you click New Solution, you'll see right here in this New Solution dialog, you'll see this SDK. And you can see the value is 6.0. You can come in here and pick any SDK that's already installed on your machine. And yeah, pick 6, because 6 is awesome. In addition,
is it just me, or aren't you sharing your screen?
Oh, did nobody turn that on? All right, let's go do that.
No.
You're supposed to do your own.
Ah, come on, guys. Come on. All right, let me start over. This is the best webcast we've ever done.
Is it too early to start drinking?
It's a fun show, yeah.
That's water, I promise. No, but so again, I'm a macOS user. So if you come into the welcome screen and you click New Solution, you'll notice that you have all these templates. If it's the first time you're running Rider and you've just installed the .NET 6 SDK, Rider will scan your SDK directory for all the new templates. So here we can see the .NET Core templates, and these are going to use the minimal API, minimal hosting templates that everyone's kind of seen at this point. And especially if you're getting into .NET 6, you're definitely going to see them because they're going to be there by default. And any community style templates that you install, they'll also appear in here. So .NET 6 SDK and .NET 6 template support just works with Rider right out of the box. So let me jump straight into kind of some new IDE features in Rider that a lot of people are going to notice as they upgrade their iteration of Rider. So I'm going to open this I Love Hot Reload project. And the first thing people are going to notice right off the bat is the new and improved main toolbar. Most people seem to like it. There are folks who maybe have differing opinions. That's fine. You do you. That's great. And we'll have options. I'll show you how to do that. But let's start from the left and we'll move to the right. The first thing in the new toolbar is the navigation items here on the left. So you can move back and forward as you move through files. So that's a really nice quick navigation. If you have source control enabled, our new source control widget is right here, and it shows you what branch you're on, whether you want to create a new branch, or whether you just want to, check out a tag or revision. You can also update your project. You can push your changes up. You can commit your changes. And you can also get this, your version control system menu up here. So if you're not a shortcut person and you just want to click some things, you can do all these things. Additionally, the unsung hero of a lot of our products is local history. So if you want to retrieve something that maybe you forgot to commit, but you ended up deleting, I urge you to check out local history. It's pretty awesome. Next, for new users of Rider, if you're not familiar with the Shift shortcut key, we've created this button for you. So again, if you like to click, you can click here and you can look for stuff and we'll search everywhere for it. And that's pretty awesome. Okay, now on the right side of our new toolbar, we have the Build Solution button. This actually changed right before our release, but now you can actually select whether you want to run in debug or release, or if you have any other solution configurations, you can kind of edit them in here as well. And then finally, the hero of the new main toolbar is our new Run widget. So here you can manage the first launch configuration. We've also made it a lot easier to add multiple run configurations. So you can kind of come in here and choose all the run configurations that you want to run side by side. But you don't have to, but it's kind of nice. It's a nice little thing. And then we have the run, debug, and then if you're the kind of person who likes to attach to process, we have some quick icons here. And then finally, we have our settings thing over here on the right. But before I continue and pass it on, let's look at what happens with the run widget when you actually run your project. So I'm going to debug this console application. And this is really important for new users of Rider. I know from the past, people have kind of got hung up on like where the debugger is and how to continue the debugging process. So the new run widget actually will transform when you're in a debug session and some of the icons will change. So you'll have the ability to rerun or restart your application. You can just resume. So if you've hit a breakpoint and you just want to continue, you can resume right here and you can stop debugging. These icons are also like somewhat repeated in the debug window. So if you're an old user of Rider, you're probably familiar with doing a lot of your debugging in the debug tool window. Finally, for folks who maybe are old timers in the Rider community, maybe you don't like this thing, you can always come up to View, Appearance, and go to Toolbar Classic, and you'll see kind of the difference here. So it's really up to you. I personally like the new Run widget. I've really enjoyed it as an addition to Rider, and I think you will too. So that's really it for the toolbar. I'm going to pass it on to somebody else.
That'd be me. I'm going to carry on talking about some UI stuff as well. So it's not just the toolbar that we've changed. We've also changed the way that we sort of show errors and warnings within a file and within the solution. So if we have a look in the corner of the screen, we can see now this little widget here. Hang on a minute, let me try that again while I'm actually in the corner of the screen. We can see this little inspections widget that we've got going on here, there. If you hover over that, it tells you how many warnings, how many suggestions, how many errors there are in the file, and you can sort of click those to sort of navigate around. There's a couple of options in here which are quite useful. You know, you can sort of say whether the F2 keyboard shortcut or, again, I'm on a Mac, so I've got no idea what that is on Windows, but it'll tell you what the keyboard shortcut is. It'll allow you to sort of cycle through the different errors and warnings and so on. And you can decide to turn down syntax highlighting, and you can also, where I use compact view to just show the usual little icon there. But that just kind of shows you the values that are available in a particular file. If you click on it, you get a full list down the bottom here. And this is a new thing we've got here. This is the problems view. So we've got a new toolbar window called Problems View, and it's split between 3 different things. You get to see the current file, all solutions, and the tool set and environment, which I'll come on to in a sec. this is really quite useful. It's a great way of being able to see what is going on in a particular file. We can look at a preview, so you can very quickly step between the different files there, sorry, the different messages, and see what's going on and how to navigate around and fix them. And that's very useful for a single file. If you want to have a look at all solution files, this is a tool window which we've had before. It used to be docked in the top right there. This is the solution-wide analysis. This is really useful if you have an error in a file, for example. It very quickly gets picked up and found. If I have something which is being used here like that, then it'll show me where the errors are now because this symbol can't be found. And again, I can select that and it'll show me where the error is. If there are values being used in different files, it'll show me the error across the whole solution there, which is useful. So this is the same sort of list of things that we had before, but it is now been moved to sort of go with the current file, all solution files, and then finally the third item, which is really cool, which is one which is telling you sort of warnings and errors about the current environment. And this can be any kind of things which are going on. It can be things like the project didn't load. Here we've got something which is saying that the MS Build is incompatible with the .NET SDK. So I'm using a wrong MS Build version for this project here. Clicking on it now gives me a set of options as well. So it gives me an easy way to try and fix problems with my tool set or with the environment. And it shows me items listed on the side here with links that I can actually do and click. Even a little helpful thing to say, well, what is MS Build? What does this error message actually mean? And if I click that, select a different build in settings, it'll bring up the settings for me here, and then I can choose the different MS Build value there from the drop-down. Now, there's a whole load of different things that are going on here, and sometimes it's hard to demo, so we've got a sneaky little diagnostic mode, which just basically gives me all of the error messages that you can possibly have there, and it shows me some lots of fun, interesting things like, you know, duplicate references found within a particular project, or if we go on to something a bit more interesting, Android SDK not found. And so it's going to say, well, this project uses the Android SDK, but you don't have it installed. So, well, okay, I can click then install Android SDK, and it'll take me to the settings page there to actually put in the right values. Other useful ones which are good in there, things like Xamarin SDK not found. Again, if I click that, it shows me what to do, and I can click the install the Xamarin SDK. And this takes me to an environment page, which is really useful. We've had this in Rider for a couple of versions now, but this is a great way of making sure that the different tool sets and tool chains that you want to use in your project are available to you. So you can make sure that .NET is up to date, Mono, Xamarin, and so on. And those are very useful things to do there. It'll also show you if you've got errors in your MS Build file and things like that. Other useful things you can do here is you can right-click on those and do ignore issue, and it'll hide it. So if you're sort of working through a bunch of issues there, and you can say, okay, I'll fix that, Alt-Enter, right-click and ignore the item, and you can get rid of them there. And also, of course, you can use Alt-Enter here to sort of open up the options there. So you can do it with the tooltips as well. Sorry, with the keyboard as well. Okay, so quick check of any questions. Looking good. We've got quite a few developers in the chat today. So if anybody's got any sort of proper interesting questions, fire it into the chat, and you might get some useful tips from the developers there. Right, I'm going to swap to a different solution now, and we're going to talk about the debugger. So let me just, I've got a simple demo program here. I'm going to ignore what the code is at the moment, and I'm just going to start the debugger. Because again, we've got some different user interface changes going on in the debugger window as well. So let me just see if I can just zoom into this a little bit. So we've got a tool window here, and what we have done is we've cleaned things up a little bit. So you might see we've got a list of toolbar buttons at the top. We used to have buttons at the top and buttons at the side. We've kind of merged all those into the top now just to make it a whole lot simpler. We've also cleaned up the item there. So the tabs you've got there, if you've only got one program being debugged, then all of the tabs are sort of pushed up a level. So we're trying to make as much use of the vertical space as we can. If you're debugging multiple programs, they'll show as different tabs there. And again, as a top tip, you can debug multiple programs at the same time. You can debug your front-end services and your back-end services at the same time, and you can attach to multiple programs and debug them sort of separately there as well. So we've moved various tooltips, various buttons to the top here. You can rerun, you can stop, you can resume the program when it's paused at a breakpoint, and we've got step in, step out, and so on. Extra items are inside the little drop down here, so things which you don't use quite so often are available here. Useful things, we've got smart step into. This is a useful idea, which is basically merged into step into as well, but this one makes sure that you can decide which item of a nested method call you step into. You can run to a cursor, so you position the text cursor on a particular line, click run to cursor, and it's like you've put in a temporary breakpoint and it'll stop at the right place there. There are also useful settings here which you can do, so you can modify the run configuration, decide how you want to open the files, how you want to show the variables, hide frames from libraries. This is a nice one there. So if you have library code in your core stack, you can just hide those. And we've got that filter button just here as well. So you click that, and any frames from a library, third-party libraries which you're not interested in, you can click those and it will hide those all away. The other thing that I want to show in this place is the immediate window. So we have changed the way that we evaluate expressions. No, go away, don't want that. That's what I can. So previously we had the evaluate button at the top. We've still got evaluate here, so we can click that. We open up a dialog and we can evaluate an expression, and it will show us the results of that. An empty array, which is a bit boring, but there we go. But what we've kind of done is we've merged the immediate window with the debug tool window itself. So you can just start typing values here, and it will now evaluate that and put it into this $result sort of pseudo variable there, and it shows it as we're going on there. So we could do things like, well, let's do arg0. It's going to be empty. Well, it's going to fail actually because there's nothing there. I could add the event, and it will now sort of put that into $result. I can also expand this, and we've now got our immediate window here. And again, I can do my args.length, and it'll show me that there. But I can do more interesting things like p equals args.length, and it will now actually create a variable called p. And I've got this synthetic variables item here with p, which I can use, and I can do something where I can p times 2. But it's 0. It's not going to do anything. P plus 2. There we go. It's 2. Magic. I can do maths-ish. The other interesting thing you can do with this one then is when you are doing this, if we do args.length, now we can see we've got a little tooltip down the bottom here. If you do Control Shift and Enter, that will actually create a watch out of the last expression. Same as clicking this button here. It'll create a watch, and now then we've just got that added to our watch window, and it's always going to be available. Last thing to show you here is this toggle button here. This allows us to stop at breakpoints when we are evaluating our code there. So if I called a method here, I could call a method to evaluate something. If there was a breakpoint in the body of that method, even from the evaluating value here, it would then hit that breakpoint. So it's a great way of debugging and trying to figure out what's going on there. You don't have to rely on what the code in your app is already doing. Final thing to show you then is, let's get rid of that, is to go back to the code that we've got here. Now, code is completely made up and serves no real purpose, but you can see we've got a number of lambdas going on here, a number of event handlers going on. So I've got a simple lambda here to return 1. I've got an event handler which I'm adding. I'm adding another event handler there to a lambda, and I'm adding an event handler here to a method, which does nothing. So what the method is actually doing isn't really important, but what is useful is that when we want to debug this, we can actually sort of get a better idea of what's going on here. So if we have a look at the event handler here, we've got this new node called subscribers, and this shows us now what methods and lambdas are subscribed to this event handler. And so, for example, we've got program.do something, and I've got this navigate link, and it'll take me straight to the line in the editor. And we've also got program.run. And if I navigate to that, it's actually going to take me to the appropriate Lambda, which is really cool. If I open this, we've got a captured variables item. And if I expand that, then it shows me what is being captured as part of that Lambda. And it shows me that it's capturing X, which is being called here. It's also capturing args because of the way the C# compiler works. It's both Lambdas share a display class. That one is one captured variables, and so they both have X and args. So it's a really nice way of being able to dig into your methods, your Lambdas, and where they're being used, and to see what the values are being passed around with them, and navigate quickly to the actual Lambda that you're working with, which is cool. And then that brings me to the end of the debugger stuff. So I think I need to hand back over to... Yes.
I have one thing. I just always want to point that out. In the immediate, well, let's say, bar now.
Yes.
One thing that I love so much about this is currently we're dealing with an array, right? So you have to use .length. But even if you type arg.count, it will actually work because it's using the same, editor engine and all that stuff, including code completion. That's what we already see. But it's using the existing, smart features, just keeping you in the flow and just turning it to what you actually intended.
Yeah, absolutely. That is a very smart little feature. I mean, we're so used to using arrays and lists, but it's like, okay, it's an array, therefore it's length. It's a list, therefore it's count.
Exactly.
So there, and it's just like, well, don't you worry about that. We'll fix it up for you. It's yeah, cool wee feature. Khalid, do you want to take over with some hot reload?
Sure. I think I'm going to remember to share my screen. So I'm going to add it to stream, and we're going to enter the matrix for a second. All right. So, yeah, I think everybody has kind of heard rumblings about hot reload and kind of what's happening. I will actually point you as well to a blog post that Martin and the devs wrote about the inner workings of hot reload. You can find that on our JetBrains blog. It's really excellent and kind of shows you how all this stuff kind of works. But as a developer, you don't actually need to know how any of this stuff works. So the canonical example, we'll start with a console application, the one we started from my previous example. And then I'll just go ahead and I'll run it. So yeah, so it's saying hello 2021, right? So we're heading into the new year, right? So I just changed that value of 2021 to 2022. And you immediately see two things happening in the UI. You see this yellow bar up here, which hints at the fact that our sources have been modified. And you see this chunky little light bulb here. So you can click either. Here, I'll click this. And you'll see you can apply changes. So I'm going to go ahead and apply changes. And what's happening is Rider is taking the changes in my code and actually injecting it into the running process using some .NET APIs. So immediately you start seeing we go from hello 2021 to hello 2022. And since Matt is my friend, I'll go ahead and say hello, Matt. Now you can see it's changed again. Right. So hot reload works with a lot of different types of applications, but the applications I work mostly with are console apps and demos and ASP.NET Core applications. So I'll switch over here to my iloveHotReload.web. And again, I'm using minimal APIs. I'm going to run this project. And you can see it's saying, let me crank this. Folks can see that now, right? So it says hello world, and I'll say hello Martin, and I'll throw a robot icon in here just to be safe. So as soon as you see me change that, you can see the apply changes and the light bulb shows up again. So I'll click this, and if we go back and refresh, you can see now I didn't restart my web application, but it says hello Martin now. So that's basically how hot reload works right now. It's an opt-in to applying the changes. and especially in an ASP.NET Core application right now, you have to refresh the page. But we do have, we are working on making it so that we can inject middleware. So when sources do change, your pages will reload and stuff like that. So while it works really well right now for applications and web applications, we are working on also improving kind of the feedback loop with hot reload. So that's kind of the high level overview of hot reload. And that's it for that. I'm going to close.
Well, before you move on, then we've had a couple of questions about Xamarin. Where does hot reload and Xamarin sit?
So this technology of hot reload is specifically for .NET 6 kind of projects. Xamarin has a version of hot reload, but they are using the same term, but they kind of operate differently. We actually do have hot reload for Xamarin, but it doesn't operate in the same way that what I just showed you does. So folks can probably go check that out. I think I remember writing a blog post about it. So check out our blog. I think there is Xamarin hot reload stuff on there if you want to check that out. But I think that's been there for a while now. That's probably one of the first frameworks that had some hot reload functionality. But yeah, hopefully that answers that question. Is there any more questions?
Not that I'm aware of just at the moment. So, we do have one. Does hot reload work with Blazor?
Ooh,
speaking of Blazor,
I don't think it works with Blazor right now. I am heading into Blazor and Blazor WASM debugging. It might potentially work with Blazor's backend code. So if you have APIs and stuff like that, those can definitely potentially be, but I don't know definitively right now. So I'll have to check and get back to those individuals. Yeah.
A really quick robotic intervention. I hope at least that my voice is still a robot right now. But for Blazor, you can probably use the plugin that Khalid and I wrote, doing hot reload. I'm not sure if you installed it.
I do. I have it. I can show folks that if there's time at the end. But I really like our plugin. I think it works really well, and basically does .NET Watch. So instead of, if you're in a tighter feedback loop, you can just use .NET Watch, and everything kind of works. It's pretty nice. So we'll save that to the end, Martin, though, just to get through some of the features in our ReSharper Rider thing. So thank you, Robot Overlord, for intervening. I'll jump now into hello, Martin. I'll jump into now the thing that a lot of people have been asking about, which is Blazor WASM debugging. So here I have a Blazor WASM. Man, I'm never going to get used to saying Blazor WASM, but we have a Blazor WASM project here with our pages, which are each of these .razor files is a Blazor component. And then here we have our counter component. And all it does is spit out the current count, and we have these methods. So we have increment count, which is called when we click, which calls really increment, which calls no really increment count, and then we actually increment the count. So I'm going to hit debug, and I'm going to explain this because I think there's a lot of misconceptions in the .NET community around Blazor WASM and kind of how debugging works in general. But let me open the DevTools, because right now you can see certain things happening. So I'm going to move this down here. I'm going to switch to the console. And if we head back to Rider, you're going to notice that the debug window looks slightly different than you normally would be used to in, say, a .NET C# kind of application. We're actually using some of our WebStorm debugging tooling here to connect directly to the Chrome. Whoops, where is that window? Oh man, windowing is hard. Where'd it go? Oh, it's over here. So yeah, we're connected to here. So if I was to go ahead and say console.log, say hi, I haven't said hi to Matthias yet. So if I say that, you can see that it's output here. But if I go over here, you can also see that it showed up in the browser, right? So we've created a bridge between Rider and your instance of, Chrome. If I come to the counter page, this is the component we were looking at. If I click me, I'll go back here. You can see that the debugger has paused actually in the browser, right? Like we've hit a breakpoint. You can also see like here's debugger's paused, and you can see the scope that we're in. Well, that scope is also reflected inside of Rider. So think of it like you're connected to Chrome and you're stepping through the debugger in Chrome, but we're bringing that experience to you back in Rider. If you were to start debugging in Blazor WASM right now and all you're seeing is this, I recommend adding a watch to this, and this is actually the context of your component. So if I
all you're seeing is this.
So if you add this, this keyword, you'll actually have the Blazor component. You'll see the current count, which is 0. And you'll also see other private members as well to the Blazor component. So has the component ever been initialized or rendered and that kind of stuff. So from here, it's your basic debugger experience, the kind of experience Matt just showed us previously. So step through, and we can see current count has actually incremented to 1. So yeah, that's it. And I can hit resume. And now you can also see that we're still connected to the Chrome window as well. So that's how we know that the debugger is still, attached. But yeah, that's it. If I hit this again, we're back in Rider and we're debugging. So one more thing I want to show here. So if you're looking here, there's a reason to my madness and why I have all these methods. The debugger will actually show you the call stack. So if you click through, you can see where we started and where we ended. So you can kind of step through and see what the context is. If there were parameters, you could see those. And yeah, that's really it. So there's Blazor WASM debugging. I think that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back to, I want to say Matt.
Don't say Matt. We're going to try Martin again.
Oh, let's go to Martin. I'm excited.
This is good. Martin's going to talk about SQL injection, apparently.
Oh, nice.
Is that right, Martin?
SQL injection, SQL language injection, actually. Am I a robot again?
Yeah, there was a small hint of it. We will.
Okay, so if it gets too worse, let me know, and I'll give you a quick bad pun, and then we can switch to the next speaker again. Cool. So SQL language injections. I'm not sure if everyone is familiar with the database tool window in Rider. So on the right-hand side here, you can open the database tool window. You can connect to any type of database that you want to work with. Also, if you have a .SQL file in your project, and I'm a robot again, aren't I? This is perfect.
It's not as bad a robot as previous, so power through for a little bit, and if it gets really bad, we'll kick you out.
All right, this sounds good. So if you have a .SQL file, you can also connect to it as a DDL data source, so that Rider will parse whatever is in there and also give you all of the tables and columns and all of that that you described there. Now, the moment you have a database connection in Rider is also the moment that inside of your C# code, you can start writing queries. So you can say select star from department, for example, which is a database table in there. You get completion because you have the database connection. So you will get all of those things together. And you can say where ID, I think, instructor ID equals add parameter. And you can add those things as well. You can alt enter from here and, for example, run this query in console if you want to do this. What's new in Rider now is that this all works with multiple or string concatenation as well. So first of all, if you do something like this, and I would recommend highly against it, because if you inject any parameters, they will not get escaped, and you actually get SQL injection and not SQL language injection. But if for whatever reason you want to beautify this a little bit and say, okay, in the string, I want do multi-line and say it should be something like this, where you add this on a new line and so on. That now works. So Rider gives you completion with that, and it will even give you completion on all the columns of that department there. What's also interesting is if I drop the space here, you will get error notifications because there is no space in the resulting query of this concatenated string. So you will see those things don't fit together and don't work. All right, am I breaking up? Cool. Then
yes,
I will. I'm gonna do my bad pun anyway. So that'll be the last thing that I do on stream here. So what does a robot pirate say when he says hi?
I don't know.
R2D2. Anyway,
I think we should just end the stream right there, basically.
Yeah,
I don't think we're going to top that, are we?
I can't follow that. It's impossible, I think.
The thing is, I've got to follow it. It's my turn.
Go for it. Go for it.
All right. Well, fine. I'm gonna. Right. Well, let's do a screeching handbrake turn and start talking about some Unity stuff then. So thank you for the jokes there, Martin. So I'm going to spend a couple of minutes now just talking about some of the new things we've got for Unity and game development stuff. We've got a great support in Rider for Unity, and this iteration we've done a lot of interesting things with assembly definition files. If you're not familiar with those, they're a JSON file, like you can see on the screen right now, which effectively defines an assembly or a project for an assembly there. And we've added a number of interesting things we can do there. So for example, here at the top, you can have references. You can have references to an assembly called post-processing. We can click that and navigate to the definition of that. It's a fairly boring definition, but you can still see it. In fact, if we click through to that one again, we can also do the find usages. If I hit the find usages keyboard shortcut, we can see everywhere that post-processing is used, and it's only used in 2 different places, but still useful. And you can also do references by GUID. So Unity will reference all files in its projects by GUID. So if you rename it, it doesn't break references and things. Unfortunately, if you got that in your assembly definition file, it's really hard to see what it is. So we've added these little hints at the end there to show you what they are. So this particular assembly definition is referencing Unity editor.testrunner and Unity engine.testrunner. And again, I can control click that and get through. And I can control click this one and get through there. If I jump back to, I think this one's probably going to be better. And if I do find usages on that, it will show me the find usages of where it's being used as a plain text name and also as a GUID there. So we kind of understand what's going on with a bunch of things there. Other cool things in the assembly definition file, you've got this idea of version defines. So you can, well, actually, let's start with something else. Where is define constraints? You can have an array here of defined constraints, and what this is saying is that the assembly definition will only be compiled if particular defines are met. So if I've got a define called Unity, well, 2020, I get code completion, and it allows me to select known constants that are already being used in the project, and then everything's good. But if I say, well, okay, I want it to be 2021, then this project isn't referencing Unity 2021. So that is grayed out, and it's showing me that it's an unmet defined constraint and that the assembly definition is going to be compiled. We can, or you can even do expressions with that as well. So we could do 2020 or Unity 2020, and it'll show you which part of the defined constraint there isn't being met, but it'll show you overall that it is being met and everything's good. We've also then got some work with version defines as well. So you can actually create your own define symbols, and these are based on what packages you got installed or what version of Unity it is you got installed. So here we're saying, well, I want Unity installed, and it tells me that I've got Unity 2020.3.23 F1 installed, and then I've got an expression to match that. And if that expression is correct, then we're going to define this tooltip fixed symbol there. And again, this is something that I could use here. I could use tooltip fixed, and everything is good. If we have an expression that doesn't match, so I'm saying, well, it's got to be 2021.2.3 and exactly, then or above, then that doesn't match our 2020.3, and so it's saying that that's not defined, and it shows us why it's not defined. We can do a sort of similar thing there, and if we want to use a package, then we can use code completion there to select packages there as well. So a lot of nice features there, nice sort of quality of life features for working with I want to talk about assembly definition files, which is good. The other things that we can do, there's a feature which I really like and which people are never going to notice, and that's my favorite kind of feature. It's just something that just works, and that is that we now understand how to highlight referenced code correctly. So I've got this file here, unity installation.cs. It's part of a package which is not part of user code. So this is something that Unity is going to compile for you, but it's still distributed as source. So you see it on the disk as source. And in fact, if I find out where it is there, we can see that it is still under my packages node here. And we've got unity installation.cs. So I can navigate to it. I can view it. I can set breakpoints in it so I can debug it. But up until now, we haven't been able to show you the correct highlighting in here if there are #if directives here, because it's not part of a project. So Rider doesn't know how this was compiled. It doesn't know what symbols were defined when it was compiled. And as far as it's concerned, all of these are undefined. And in this release, we've now actually sort of figured out what they are, and we tell Rider and give it that context there. And so it knows that actually it was defined with Unity 2020.2 or newer, and it's then highlighting the appropriate part of the file there. And so that just works for you. So that's a really nice little feature. A couple of other smaller features we've got are things like if you've got a serialized field here, which has got an XML comment, we can do Alt-Enter and we can do convert XML doc to a tooltip attribute. And now it will rewrite that XML doc comment as a tooltip, which is going to be used in the Unity Editor Inspector window there. And if we hover over this now, we actually see the tooltip itself is defined there, but then we've got it down in the bottom there as part of the quick doc. And if we use this in code completion there, so time to next wave, when that pops out there, we see the tooltip being shown in the window itself. Just put it there. So we can do that, and I can do convert to tooltip as that. Convert to that. And that's that one actually. The only other things then that I'd like to call out are two nice little features. If I go this way and have a look at this here, we've supporting iOS USB debugging for Apple M1 devices and also Linux as well. So we've added support for that. So you can now debug games which are running on an iPhone, whether you're running on an Apple M1 device, whether you're running on Linux as well. And the other thing to point out as well is that meta file tracking has been completely rewritten. And so it works now with more cases there. So we used to do it so that any file which was part of your C# projects would be automatically handled for you. We now work with anything that you can see in the Unity Explorer window, so it's better and more resilient there. Moving on to Unreal. We've got Rider for Unreal, which is still in preview right now. And what we've been working on this time around, the big news, the big item that we can talk about right now is unit testing. We work with the Unreal Engine testing framework. So we'll discover those tests and we can run them straight from Rider itself there. And we'll show all those results then in the tool windows with all the sort of features that you'd expect. The other things we've been working on is, of course, getting it ready for release. We've been working on it, making it work better with Unreal projects, with the newer versions of Unreal Engine 5, later versions of Unreal Engine 4. And we're starting to work on bringing that in and merging that into the main code base. So we'll have more to talk about that very, very soon. And also, we're hoping to bring a Linux build of Rider for Unreal Engine out in the next week or so, which is going to be rather fun. So we've already got a Mac build, we've got a Windows build as well. So you don't have to be on Windows, you don't have to be using Visual Studio there. You can use the Mac, you can use your U project files directly, and we're going to be supporting Linux on that soon as well. which then brings me to the end of that. And then I think I'm handing over. Who am I handing over? I'm handing over to me, I think, aren't I? So that looks like I'm handing over to me to talk about something completely different. And that means going back to one of these files there. A nice feature which has been asked for a lot is to work with code cleanup on save. And we've added some actions here for actions on save. This is configured through the settings dialog there. If you want to try and find it, you can always search. You can search just about everywhere in Rider there. Just type save, and we come to this actions on save page here. This page, I believe, is new for this release here, and it shows us a number of different actions which you can do when you save a file. And we've got things like file watchers, which we can configure running lint files for web-based files. And then we've also got this reformat and cleanup code there. You just need to check the checkbox, choose which profile you want to run. So we can have code cleanup profiles, and these can be different sorts of code cleanup. So you can have it to say, clean absolutely everything up, change type names into var, change, use expression body syntax, use all these kinds of things. Or you can say, well, actually, no, just reformat my code, make sure that spacing is correct, that line breaks are correct, and anything in between. You can define your own profile, which you can select and use there. And the other useful thing here is that you can apply that to the whole file or just the change lines as well. So that's a really nice thing. So instead of having to change your entire file, it's just make sure that the bits which you've edited are formatted nicely. The other thing to point out here is that we've got the configure auto save options down here. Rider does a lot of, it will save your files automatically for you. So it will save files before doing a refactoring. It'll save files automatically if you leave the IDE idle for a while. And so it does a sort of automatic saving. And we don't run format code every single time we save, because that could just get a bit surprising, just about to refactor and then all of a sudden your code is reformatted. What we will do is we will only reformat your code when you explicitly save it there, when you hit the sort of Control S, Command S there to actually save the file itself. And that's me. So now who do I hand over to?
Me.
Oh, it's back. This is the Khalid show again.
No, I do want to add one thing to what you're saying. Those profiles are very, very, very configurable. So
Yes.
If you only want certain things to happen, you can go in, create your profiles, and it's pretty awesome. So I showed some people that, and it kind of blew their mind. So, all right, let's Matt, could you do the honors and switch to my screen so that?
Well, I was just about to show how configurable they are. There's just millions of things there. Look at that. There's loads of things, and it's the Khalid style.
Wow.
Okay. Anyway, let's change back to you. There you go.
All
You're
right.
in control.
All right. So I think we're saving the best for last, but we like F# here at JetBrains. F# is awesome. So one of the not so big surprises, but is big news for everybody. F#6 support drops with .NET 6, and we have F#6 support. So in this release, you'll find a lot of quality of life improvements, code completion, refactorings, navigation, and just generally a lot of F# awesomeness. So I'm going to highlight some of the big things that we announced in our announcement. One of the first things is kind of just allowing you to create variables based on tuples and single case union types. So here I have some nonsensical code, but it kind of gets the point across. If I was to go here and hit Alt-Enter, I can say, create a let binding, and I can choose either to use the async int, or I can just use let bang. I'll use this one, and you can kind of see that in place. Let's do another let binding. Let's use the async one. Oh, I already did that one. Let's go here. Replace one occurrence, and we'll do this one. So you can do that, which is kind of neat. You can also, if you're returning two types, a tuple, in this case, I'm returning a tuple, we'll actually let you deconstruct here. So we can do this, which is just taking the tuple, which isn't really that interesting. Or we can break it apart, deconstruct it. So if you like deconstructing tuples, yeah, Rider will do that for you now. So I'm just going to switch this stuff back because we'll just continue down the road. So another nice thing in F#, if the type you're returning implements iDisposable, we actually detect that now. So you can introduce a binding, and you can either use let or you can have use, which will dispose of that. So that's really nice. Okay, this is awesome. So I'm a functional programmer. I've created the world's greatest functional method, and it's the Fibonacci sequence. But something's just not right. You can see I have my method here declared, and this Fibonacci sequence method is right, but what's going on? Well, the Rider, the ReSharper engine, is realizing that something is wrong, and it's, hey, this function should really be recursive. And I do that, and it adds the REC keyword to make this function recursive. So you don't have to worry about that. If you forget that, Rider, ReSharper has your back. It's pretty cool. Here is another thing. So for union case patterns, Rider will actually suggest that you use pattern matching for particular fields. So here we have, as part of this type, a first last, which is tuple of string. So if I go down here, I haven't completed this pattern matching yet. If I go first last, you'll see Rider's recommending that I deconstruct the first last field. And now I can say first name, last name. And I can say, now I can use that. Well, you can see it down here. Copy it. So, see, Rider's smart. It's saying, hey, that's not right. So now that was pretty cool. I was able to deconstruct this, and Rider just kind of hinted as to what this potential pattern matching should be here. One of the last things, which is really going to be a quality of life improvement for F# programmers, with the addition of interpolated strings, you can now kind of, increase your selection correctly inside of interpolated strings. So here I have name selected. If I expand the selection, it'll select name, then it'll select the braces with name, and then it'll select the entire string contents, and then it'll select the entire interpolated string. So I think this was contribution from Andrew Rublev. So that's why I have his name here. So those are some F# improvements that you can find in the latest release of Rider. If you want to see more, you can head over to our GitHub, where we have release notes and more detailed, listed items as to our F# release. Other than that, that's F#, F#6 support in Rider. And I think I'll pass it back to Matt. I'm going to say Matt.
Nice try. Still not passing it back to me. You're passing it over to Matthias. It's like sooner or later you're going to guess right.
See, you interrupted me. I said Matt, and then you interrupted, and I was going to say Matthias. Matt.
I was just too quick off the blocks there. I apologize. That's good. And just as another plug for the What's New page, if you want more details on what is new in any parts of ReSharper and Rider, we've got a couple of fantastic pages detailing loads of new updates, features, changes, and whatnot in there. Mm-hmm. But yes, we're going to hand over to Matthias. I think we're very nearly finished. I think you've got pretty much the last section, Matthias.
Nearly. I have like 3 minutes. I have actually two more things to say about inspections because we had this hiccup with Martin, unfortunately. But first off, we worked on performance for our inspections, and that only applies to a subset of the inspections that you know. But just for you to get a sense of it, so we improve performance for those that can be applied in bulk. So some of these that I've initially showed, and that is because we can reuse the information from solution-wide analysis. So when you have the opportunity to turn that on, you might do that because results from there can be reused to improve that performance. And also these inspections can now run on multiple cores. So I've seen a table. I don't have it at hand, but you should see for some inspections an improvement in performance, quite a bit actually. Also, one thing, and it's funny that some of our developers also watch the stream where we show off the features that they've been building. So Andrew reminded me, okay, come on, also show this pass in string interpolation quick fix. So in this case, we've been talking about interpolated string handlers, and you may remember that we can define a handler like this, and that this can actually receive an interpolated string. But we can also use, and I hope this is the right way, Andrew, that you intended, but we can also have a second method which uses the old style basically. And in that case, if we also have that attribute applied and then go back to one of the usages, then you can also see we can actually transform this into the new string interpolation handler by saying pass string interpolation, and we're done. And this can also be, again, be done here. This can also be done again in bulk, of course. Okay, but that were some missing bits about inspections. The last thing that was actually scheduled for our agenda was something about dotCover and testing. So what we've added in this particular version is, let's go to Code Vision. So I currently didn't have it enabled, but let's enable Code Vision. Let's save. And now you can see for the tests that we have, and I already run a coverage run for this, we can actually see how many tests this will cover. Now, from the test point of view, this doesn't make much sense, to be honest. But let's go over to pattern matching, for instance. It doesn't do anything meaningful in this case, but I want to show you these Code Vision items here. So in this case, you can actually click this. You also have the knowledge how many tests are actually covering my code at this particular position, or in this case for that member where the Code Vision item is shown. And from here, we could, just run coverage again or debug or anything. And also this is available if you need it more granular, basically. This is also available from the left-hand side, so from the gutter marks. So in this case, this one is not covered, so we don't see any tests. Makes sense. For the one that is covered, we actually have 4. So it was actually just to trigger that feature to show you that a bit. And I think if there aren't any questions, that's it from my side.
Okay,
that's mine.
I got to say that's really cool. It's the first time I've seen that one, and that's really nice. I like that. Good integration there. And we will have had a comment there saying that this is Zippy. Is this Intel Silicon hardware? And no, Matthias is the lucky one out of us who's got the M1. So it's like there we go. This is running on the M1. So yeah, again, but thank you for allowing us to point out that yes, this release does have M1 support, and it is nice and zippy and fast, so it's good. And we're all jealous that Matthias has a better laptop than us. But there we go.
You don't need to be so jealous. I mean, my camera doesn't work, so
well, nobody's jealous of Martin's microphone, so that's something. So that brings us to the end of what we had scheduled there. We've been bang on an hour and a half, which is perfect. I think we could probably squeeze in a couple of minutes to show that .NET Watch run configuration, if you're available to quickly show us something there, Khalid or Martin.
Oh, let's try Martin.
And if anybody has any questions right now as well, throw them in. We can have a few more minutes, I guess, to try and answer a couple of questions before we wrap up.
I believe in Martin. Come on, Martin, you can do it.
Are you sure this is not gonna end well? Also, I don't have a project open, so.
It's down to you then, Khalid.
All right.
Do you have something to quickly show this?
Yeah. Let's go. So, let me close this, and let's go back to I love hot reload. So, Martin and I actually, I'm gonna bring this up. Plugins. Oh, right here. Oh man, he's updated already. Man. So Martin's been updating a lot of the plugins. So if the audience can kind of give him a clap for updating plugins, but we actually have a .NET Watch run configuration plugin that we released as part of the advocates. We worked on this kind of on our time, and it's pretty cool. But you can kind of come in here, edit your run configurations, and add .NET Watch. So this will actually use the command line .NET Watch, and then you can pick the project that you want to watch continually. You can pass in program arguments, and you can kind of set the logging verbosity. You can also suppress hot reload. There's some kind of applications where you don't want hot reload to happen. If you're creating some kind of REPL-like experience, you probably don't want hot reload. So yeah, you can select the project. I'm going to select the web project, hit apply, and now we see this unnamed. I probably should have named it, but if I run this, it'll actually just run .NET Watch, and now it'll watch our project, and it'll just kind of loop. Oh, this problem really. So on macOS, you have to give each new project access to your keychain. It's kind of a weird thing with .NET, but you only have to do it once per project. So here we go. Hello, Martin. And then I can just change this to hello, Matt. And let's see. Oh, since this isn't a web project, it won't upload or won't restart. But if you had like CSHTML or something like that, it would. So yeah, this is kind of nice for Razor application or Razor Pages applications. But yeah, it just kind of works. So quiet plug, but most of the credit goes to Martin. He did a lot of this work. I basically gave him the idea and just kind of watched over his shoulder.
Took the glory.
That sounded kind of creepy, but just saying Martin did most of the work. So thanks to him.
And so what is it that people need to search for in the plugins marketplace for that?
Oh,
just .NET Watch.
Yeah,
so
.NET Watch.
.NET Watch run configuration. So I'm going to live on the edge, run the demo. I'm going to update
you crazy
it.
kid.
Oof, man, crazy. All right.
Okay, right. We have one last question here, which is, I'm not sure I know the answer to this one. Do you all know any news about the new runtime of .NET 6 that was re-implemented using C#? Is there some news about it in Rider? I must confess, I'm not aware of that. A lot of .NET is already written in C#, so all the base class libraries and a lot of other parts of it are written in C#. So, but I haven't heard about anything else like that there. Is anyone else aware of anything?
No,
looks like Misha just answered that on Linux and Mac OS X, the Rider actually uses the .NET 6 runtime to run the backend of ReSharper.
Yeah, that's a very good point, actually.
And
that is why we can support the M1 silicon as well, because we are now using .NET 6 as the framework for .NET in Rider. So all cool, all good. Yeah. Okay, right. Well then, seeing as there are no more questions, I will add myself to the stream there and say that if you want to get any more information, there's a couple of places you can go to. JetBrains.com/.net. You'll be able to download any of the products that you've seen here. So you can get trial versions of ReSharper, of Rider, of the .NET tools, dotCover, .trace, .memory. The blog has loads of content and loads of useful information there. blog.jetbrains.com/.net for us. We got a few different Twitter feeds there, one for JetBrains, one for ReSharper, and one for JetBrains Rider itself. And of course, then the JetBrains TV YouTube channel where this video will be available. But then if you're watching this, you're probably already there. So that's a thing. That then leaves me basically to say thanks for joining. There are way more videos that we've got available on the JetBrains channel there. So what is it? Like and subscribe. Click the bell or something. What is it the cool kids say?
Yeah, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. I think that's what they say on YouTube. I don't know.
I have no idea. I'm too old for this nonsense. But thank you very much for joining. And if you have any more questions, please let us know. Ping us on Twitter, on the blogs, or what have you. And we'll see you at the next one.